Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins with a fella sprinting through a city of pandemonium. It's a zombie apocalypse, uncouth brain eaters everywhere. Our man, pursued by a zombie flash mob, reckons life devolved into a Dante-esque nightmare. Lo and behold, it's just a flick on the silver screen. Enter Akira, a lad who'd prefer dealing with the aforementioned brain munchers over his desk job. Noting the clock ticking ominously towards 4 a.m., he figures he should embrace slumber, given his upcoming work. His preference, however, leans heavily towards staying in bed until Christmas, but he resigns to unconsciousness. Rewinding a few days, we spot Akira initiating his tenure at a production company. He's a one-man welcome party, blending into the cheery ambiance of his workmates. Giddy with anticipation, he's ready to dive into what he believes is his dream job. His boss plays tour guide, showing him his future fortress of solitude, his desk, and introducing him to his department head. Amid visions of crafting epic commercials and potentially schmoozing with celebs, he collides with a delightful lass. Swiftly aiding her post-collision, he learns she's Tori from accounting, a perpetual helper, wishing him luck on his first day. As darkness descends, Akira and his work buddies share a drink, engaging in a friendly Q&A session. Discovering his educational background and his inexplicable fascination with rugby, they collectively declare him a stellar team addition. He trades a glance with Tori and decides to go turbo at work to impress her. The night unfurls and Akira is buzzing with anticipation for the following workday. To his surprise, his colleagues suddenly rise like caffeinated vampires, readying themselves for an office return. Observing the clock mocking him at 2 a.m. and everyone knows deep in work, Akira ponders whether he's in the twilight zone, but his comrades seem to accept this as a standard. Before he knows it, he's clocked an office all-nighter, a trend that becomes routine. The subsequent evening, he ponders the mystical concept of going home, only to pull another moonlit work marathon. At last, he escapes a torturous 2-day stint and crashes at home, more drained than a bathtub after bath time. It dawns on him that he's been worked harder than a pack mule at a hilltop farm. Blurry-eyed, our hero greets 6 a.m. like an uninvited guest. Longing for a day without toil, he gives himself a mental pep talk, insisting on biting the bullet and soldering on, considering this to be his dream gig. On his march to the office, we discover the company's admirable policies, paid vacations, and mental health days. However, these seem to be as useful as an ashtray on a motorcycle. No one ever uses them. Instead, they participate in an overtime unpaid hours contest. Akira's superior plays Good Samaritan, treating him to a meal. But despite his 5-year service, he's paid peanuts. It's clear the staff are walking medical dictionaries, battling health issues galore. Not only this, but their boss could give Gordon Ramsay a run for his money, often sparking waterworks among the team. Regardless, Akira trucks on, entering year 2 of his corporate odyssey. His health starts resembling a train wreck, hygiene slips, and the news lands that a colleague has thrown in the towel, meaning more workload for him. Faced with another impending all-nighter, his spirits are lifted by a care package from Tori, who's noticed his non-stop grind. She's his lifebuoy in this storm, but a quick summons from the boss reveals she's also his girlfriend. Leaving work at an ungodly hour, Akira ponders his allegiance to the company. Contemplating a job switch, he dismisses the idea, believing there's no time to job hunt and fretting over burdening his team. In his 3rd year, he's paired with a client who must be a close relative of Diva Demands. Said client insists on including the director's nephew in the script. With 5 revisions already under their belt, Akira tries to refuse, but the client's threat to pack up his business leaves him no choice. Budget constraints gnaw at him, pushing him towards his breaking point. The office environment is no better than a hurricane, and he fantasizes about an internal snooze to escape this work torment. At his abode, he labors on, a news report about an outbreak playing as a grim soundtrack. He collapses, wishing to sleep like a log forever, but the harsh reality of his alarm pulls him back into the waking world, where he begins his mindless morning routine. Spotting an unpaid bill, Akira decides to face the music, seeking out the building manager. After several unanswered knocks, he worries about the ticking work clock. When the manager finally makes an appearance, he's more of a zombie than a morning person. The sight leaves Akira frozen like a deer in headlights. His zombie landlord takes a lurch at him, sparking an impromptu sprint session. The corridor transforms into a thriller as more of the living dead join the pursuit. Sprinting full tilt, a door swings open, almost smacking him in the face. The reality of his building turned zombie nest sinks in. Amidst the chaos, his workaholic mind is caught up in the thread of tardiness. Bursting onto the street, he beholds the pandemonium, yet a silver lining emerges in his dread-filled thoughts: no more work. He welcomes this newfound freedom with a leap of joy, narrowly dodging a zombie. The joy of finally having a day off infuses color into his once dreary world. Vaulting over a fence, he takes a breather, pondering his next move. A vacation, skydiving, or a movie marathon sound enticing, a bucket list he could finally check off. Suddenly, his thoughts drift towards Tori, the boss's girl. Driven by concern and an unexpressed affection, he resolves to confess his feelings to her, shooting away any potential regrets. Astride his bicycle, he weaves through the zombie-laden streets, making a beeline for her apartment with the help of the company's emergency contact list. At her door, nerves set in, wondering if his sudden appearance would give off a creep vibe. He convinces himself he's just there to ensure her safety. Finding her door unlocked, he calls out to her, only to spot a familiar pair of men's shoes. His boss materializes before him, quickly taking on the distinct features of the undead. Seizing this oddly opportune moment, Akira addresses his grievances, tendering his resignation in the most cinematic way possible, by sending his zombie boss flying out the window. As his boss makes a splashy exit, Akira spots Tori in the adjacent room. Unfortunately, it's a tad late as she's halfway through her zombie transformation. Amidst the chaos, Akira wears his heart on his sleeve, confessing his love for her since their first encounter. Alas, Cupid's arrow bounces off of her, replaced by a zombie lunge, and he scrambles away, bidding adieu to his erstwhile love. The zombie takeover blankets the city, turning twilight into their playtime. Akira takes a pit stop at a 7-Eleven for supplies, reveling in the unusual dreamlike state of never having to work again. With his confession unburdening his heart, he feels the clock ticking louder, making him want to cram as many experiences as possible into his lifetime. Thus, a bucket list of 100 desires to fulfill takes shape. A nightmare featuring his demanding ex-chief wakes him in a cold sweat, but his pulse slows when the sweet realization of joblessness sinks in. Stretching on his balcony, he admires the beautiful day unfurling, anticipating a much-needed vacation. His rejuvenating journey begins with a thorough spring cleaning of his apartment, even giving his porcelain throne a polished look. The gratification of tidying up after a 3-year hiatus culminates in the satisfying pop of a beer can, marking his first self-care morning. The bliss of a morning brew in the midst of freedom makes him giddy, drawing parallels with heavenly joy. The news showcases the city's predicament, the reporters in disarray, fires blazing, and a communication blackout. An abrupt end to the broadcast heightens the chaos, leaving him to ponder the uncertainties of the future. Dismissing these thoughts, he settles into a day of relaxation and drinking, channeling his inner hedonist. However, his euphoria crashes when the bitter truth of his beer shortage hits him. The prospect of a supply run fills him with dread, considering the zombie-filled streets outside. Yet the lure of the frothy golden beverage overpowers his concerns. It's off to the store, he concludes, one way or another. Meanwhile, we stumble upon another twosome barricaded in their home. They confront the grim reality that rescue isn't on the horizon, which leaves them questioning their next move. The bloke believes in their fortitude, while the lady forecasts a doomsday scenario. In the midst of their anxiety, a hero appears, or more accurately, a figure shimmying down the drainpipe, Akira. Their shock transitions into relief, while Akira elucidates his escape route around the zombie-infested staircase. Inviting him into their zombie-free haven, the man is disappointed when Akira declines, citing his quest for provisions. Pleasantries are exchanged, and Akira, living in the adjacent building, introduces himself. Akira's mention of a grocery run prompts requests for food and the sacred toilet paper from the couple. As Akira rides off on his bike, he observes a swelling undead population, considering the precarious situation if he were cornered. Yet he chooses potential digestion over beer deprivation, charging towards the 7-Eleven. A peculiar sight greets him, a fellow bicycle sporting a camera, suggesting unseen observers. Oblivious, Akira hums his way to the beer aisle when he spots a female shopper. He blushes, thinking his impromptu concert might have reached her ears. Determined not to spook her like he did the couple, he switches to suave mode, initiating a casual conversation about his beer shortage. But she simply walks away, ears perked to a distant horn. Akira, ever persistent, reaches her side, labeling their encounter as serendipitous, and proposes a contact swap. The woman, engrossed in her phone, assesses her camera feed, and also observes Akira's purchases. She criticizes his choice to brave the apocalypse for beer, deducing that he lacks survival instincts. According to her, pairing up with him would be a liability, potentially sabotaging her survival odds. Just then, zombies infiltrate their supermarket sanctuary. With a gallant rush, Akira moves to shield her, but she drags him back as a truck barrels into the store. Dazed, Akira looks at the woman who's already making an escape, leaving him sprawled on the floor. He attempts to voice his gratitude but finds her zooming off, leaving behind his crushed bike. Reflecting on her words about risk assessment, he admires her coolness, daydreaming about a possible reunion. A zombie, likely drawn to his musings, staggers towards him, making him wonder how he'll navigate his way home without a bike. Fortunately, he discovers a scooter and recalls the timing of the outbreak. Rush hour, leaving streets littered with bikes and scooters, key still in the ignition. Pondering if he could upgrade his ride, he exchanges the scooter for a motorbike. Despite a spectacular crash into a car door, he sticks the landing and eventually reaches his apartment. As he shimmies up the drain pipe, he takes stock of his fruitful day, now beer rich and having crossed paths with a woman. He halts at Kasaka's level, inviting them for a drink, only to find their apartment a scene of devastation. In the solitude of night, he finds company in his beer, reflecting on the fleeting nature of life and the importance of embracing risks. Drawing up a childhood bucket list, he checks off accomplishments like confessing to a girl, drinking beer all day, and motorbike joyrides. His list grows, yet he only manages to jot down 30 aspirations. He ponders what his heart truly yearns for, grinning as he adds 3 more items to his list. Reunite with his parents, reconnect with his best friend, and bump into the girl of his dreams. Rewind to the dawn of this day, we peek into the life of the woman Akira encountered. She begins her day with the same news broadcast, followed by an energizing run. In her health-conscious regimen, she consumes a plethora of supplements. Despite her attempts to get in touch with her LA office, she's met with silence. Despite the bleak situation, she drafts her own survival checklist. Surveying the zombies through binoculars, she categorized them into 2, walkers and runners. Counting each type, she figures that correctly identifying the zombies might significantly tilt survival odds in her favor. Sensing the urgency to procure supplies before the zombie count escalates, she even charts out the safest neighborhood. Upon reaching 7-Eleven, she mounts her camera and commences her gathering mission. She's lured by a sugary treat but resists, labeling it non-essential. The sight of Akira's arrival takes her by surprise, another human. His conversational overtures go unanswered as she spots a zombie tailing him and decides to expedite her exit. Dismissing him as a survival anomaly, she barely pays him any heed. The distant blare of a car horn alarms her, forewarning an influx of zombie attraction. She plots her escape but soon realizes the careening truck is beyond control. Seizing the moment, she uses the ensuing chaos to make her exit. Safely back in her apartment, she relishes her successful supply run. She reviews the zombies she encountered but gets distracted by the sight of Akira, whose ecstatic reaction over a beer in this critical situation puzzles her. Reflecting on the tempting sweet she left behind, she yearns for its comfort. Revealing her own list, a 100-point roster of activities to keep the zombie transformation at bay, we learn she too has a strategy. Over at a host club, we find the top host Shell consoling a young lady. Reassuring her safety, he urges her to rest, but a pressing issue outside needs his attention. He pleads with her to hold the fort. Her anxiety is palpable, so he guarantees his return. He rallies his comrades, girding for a brawl. Zombies advance outside, and the club staff gird themselves to safeguard their turf. Shell urges them to do whatever it takes to secure their domain, and we witness them engaging with the zombie mob. In the same breath, we spot Akira roaring into the host club on his motorcycle, seemingly on the hunt for his pal. Rewinding a few hours, we find him pondering the joys of beard growth in his jobless state. Mocking up a beard with a marker, he decides it's not his style, promptly striking it off his list. Pondering his next move, he notices a flurry of messages on his phone, meaning that the internet is back. Browsing his inbox, he reminisces about the countless social invitations he'd rejected due to his workaholic nature, a regret seeping in. As he flips through his contact list, the memory of his friend Kenshaw, who once advocated quitting his job, resurfaces. Figuring Kenshaw isn't the kind to give in easily, he attempts to reach him via a call. Elsewhere, in the confines of a love hotel, we find Kenshaw cornered in a room, surrounded by zombies. Stranded with the remnants of his water supply, we learn that he's been cooped up here for 3 days. Starvation sets in and he feels his sanity wavering. Convinced his end is near, his mind wanders to Akira, whose laughter was a staple at his jokes. As if on cue, his phone buzzes with Akira's incoming call. Akira, delighted to find him alive, quips about the year-long hiatus in their hangouts, even extending an invite for a drink. Kenshaw, baffled by Akira's joviality, is hit with a request for his location. He fills in Akira about his zombie-infested Shinjuku locale, insisting that he should write him off. However, Akira simply retorts that he'll see him soon. Akira promptly hits the road as we learn that they were college buddies who bonded over 4 years of rugby. He reminisces their last booze up when Kensha boasted about his real estate gig, his posh clientele, and paraded his latest love interest, while Akira was stuck in a drudgery of a job. As the evening unfolded, Kensha pointed out Akira's exploitation, urging him to quit and dubbing him a fool for sticking around. An irked Akira shot back, labeling Kensha obnoxious for his constant bragging, leading to their falling out. In the meantime, we spot Shell, the last man standing amid a sea of zombies. Resigned to his fate, he ruminates over his fulfilling life, but feels remorse for failing to keep his promise to the girl. Just as a zombie lunges at him, the blare of a car horn captures all undead attention, including those besieging the hotel. Zombies converge around the car with the horn taped to a ball, from where the sound originates. Surprise, Akira pops up from a nearby water feature. The car explodes and Akira beelines it into the hotel. Kensha peeks out from his room, puzzled by the vanished zombies, only to be startled by Akira materializing behind him. Kensha is dumbfounded by his arrival. Akira starts spouting apologies, admitting Kensha was right about his company, and how he should have just jumped ship earlier. He confesses his envy of Kensha, and pleads for forgiveness. His tears, however, beckon the zombies back. They scramble up to the roof, barricading the door from the zombies. Kensha panics, believing their makeshift barrier won't last long. Akira proposes they take a leap, assuring that safety lies if they can reach the adjacent building. Kensha deems the stunt impossible, but Akira retorts that they won't know unless they leap. Akira dives off the building, successfully landing on the other side, urging Kensha to follow suit. Kensha, eyeing the drop, thinks Akira lost his marbles, doubting his own ability to survive the leap. Zombies begin to infiltrate and Kensha decides to come clean. He confesses his disdain for his job, having to don a fake smile while duping people daily. His accomplishments left him feeling hollow rather than elated, and all his boasting would just to mask his internal void. Therefore, he offers an apology to Akira for his constant showboating. Akira, mulling over Kensha's revelation, realizes it aligns with his zest for life. Kensha confesses that he yearned for a profession where he could entertain people, realizing that his true ambition was to be a stand-up comedian. Akira assures him it's not too late, and he could ditch his job and become a comedian immediately. The zombies breach the door, and Kensha, prompted by the imminent danger, hurls himself off the building. In midair, he strips off his clothes, eliciting gales of laughter from Akira. Kensha barely manages to grab onto the other building, but begins to slip. He's on the brink of meeting his end in the nude when Akira grasps him. As Akira hauls him up, Kensha howls in agony. Akira fears a zombie might have bitten him, but Kensha clarifies it's a graver predicament. He's wounded his crown jewels. Thanks for watching. Future parts will be in a pinned comment below.